Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, all. Okay, my name is David Thuo. I'm a recreational runner. I think we've seen a lot about elite running. So I'm going to take us through recreational running. And to introduce myself, I'm 43 years old. I've been running for the last 20 years. It started off by accident when we got our firstborn, and the only fitness regime we could afford was running outside, which is one of the advantages of running, that you can get out there and just with a pair of shoes and some kit, you can go run and get fit. So that's how we started 20 years ago. Down the line, I've been running and taken part in many marathons and together with friends, and I shall take you through that. So we shall start by the general definition of recreational running. They say that, okay, the dictionaries will define it as running to improve your health, and one definition puts it as a form of trotting or running at a slow or leisurely pace, the main intention being to increase physical fitness with less stress on the body. But recreational running didn't come into style until the 1960s. Of late, I think everywhere we move around, we see people in certain neon lit gear with some beeping equipment. Do you see them around? Lots of them. So it didn't just start that way. In fact, in the 1960s, at best, it would garner some weird looks, and at worst, the joggers would be chased by police. And there was one case that a jogger was actually arrested, and you can see there's a video of a picture of him being accosted by police, and I guess he explained himself out and got away with it. In fact, then there's some lady who wrote to an editor and said that in a small town, there is no odder sight than the sight of someone jogging. Obviously, we've come a long way many years later. In the same decade, around 1968, the Chicago Tribune devoted an entire page to a strange trend called jogging. Then eventually, Bowerman and a little company, little in quotes, helped to fuel the fitness fad. Recreational running as we know it today. Where do we see people running? We see them on the walkways. We see them in the parks. We see them all around us in the estates, etc. Actually, recreational running, for those who may not be very familiar with the numbers, recreational runners actually form over 99% of all runners in a race. For example, the last Standard Chartered Marathon had about 17,215 runners. Out of these, 100 were elites. So you can see how much difference in numbers there is between the elites and the recreational runners. And recreational runners are the guys who are actually funding, they're actually the guys who pay to these races, raise money for charity. And so it is important that we actually get to appreciate them, and we can't afford to ignore them, because actually in all races they form a big bulk. In a race like New York Marathon with 50,000 runners, way over 49,000 are recreational runners drawn from all over the world. So these are the runners who actually pay up to come for the race. Then we have the guys who actually come to the race for the money. So, and the numbers are very telling, and that is why we can't afford to ignore those guys. They train hard. If I tell you this morning I did 36 kilometers in Gong, way away from my house. Yes, this morning from 5 a.m. And because recreational runners have a daytime job, I've got to actually plan my running. and I've got to go to work, you know. A little different from the elites who actually run. They go eat, they sleep, they go run again, then, they sleep, they wake up, they go for a second run, etc. I've got to put in hours because I do not earn money from running. And that is the same across the recreational running fraternity. So these are the guys, when you're driving to the airport at 3 a.m., you will find them running and you're wondering what is wrong with these fellows. Don't they have a better thing to do? So now that you know better, please take care of them when you see them on the roads. We have a photo of a modern day recreational runner. The guy is normally carrying a lot of gadgets around him. You know, you've seen that photo, yeah? They've got beeping gadgets, they've got all manner of stuff. Lately, we've been talking about shoes that have springs, so this fellow has some springs on his shoes. And yeah, so that's your modern day runner. Obviously, we had Maasais before who are known as ardent runners because of their pastoralists, but this is what now is our modern day runner. So we run for different reasons. Some people ask us, why do you chase air? The footballers will ask us, why do you chase something that doesn't exist? We chase a ball. What do you chase? What are you running away from? We run for various reasons. One of them, not the biggest necessarily, is obviously the medals. That is the medal on the right is my recent medal. I ran Berlin Marathon on 29th of September. My time was 2:38. Those guys who are familiar with time will acknowledge that that time is elite time almost. and we ran with many people. Actually, we were about 34 of us from Kenya, non-elites in Berlin. And we do take part in these races together with the local ones. On the other side is a photo of other medals. One of them is for a friend of ours, a recreational runner who actually was number 2 in the 21-kilometer race in Paris Disney Marathon. So we have actually crossed from the running for fun to actually moving it to another level. And how do we get there? You start off, like for example, if I was to talk about myself, I started off running for fitness, for fun. My wife needed to shed weight, which is one of the reasons that we ran. And I joined in the bandwagon, but many years later you realize you set a time and you want to improve it, etc., and that's how we have gotten here. We also ran for a cause. Different people, we normally see people running maybe for cancer. Tomorrow, we have a run in support of Faraja Cancer. People run because maybe they lost a loved one and they need to commemorate them, and they use a run as a way of commemorating that. We also meet new people when we run. And the runners around here will attest to it, that we do meet new people. You can train for specific goals. Sometimes we challenge ourselves and we say, we hear people run a marathon. Let me try. So that is a specific goal. You may be running because you want to shed weight, and many other reasons. We also run because it feels good to run, in as much as it can be difficult. We are all aware that running and workout does help in release of endorphins, which are feel-good hormones. So it's a good reason why we run. It's also good for the brain. They actually say that running promotes a process called neurogenesis, which helps in nerve growth. So for older generation people, it is actually very helpful. And lately, we have seen older people amongst us running. Locally, we have someone we run with. She's 64 years old. She just did New York Marathon and did it in 4 hours. She's called Joyce Nduko. Many of us may know her. So she's running at 64. The oldest runner in the recently completed New York Marathon was 84 years old. Because, and it's good for us to see that, because every other time people will ask you, when will you stop running? Okay, you are small now, you are fit, so what next? Why do you keep on running? But we tell them that now it's a way of life, and we are not going to stop running. If we eat and we are alive, we breathe, then we are going to run. We may reduce the intensity and the distances, but we'll keep running. It's a good thing. Why would you want to get out of a good thing? You're also part of a community. I tell people that my closest people right now are the people I run with. For example, this morning, I was with 5 of them. These guys, I'll see them tomorrow again in another run. In the day, we are going to talk about our run today, how our run this morning went, and how tomorrow's run will be. And we are always connected. And even when we don't physically meet in a run, they'll be running a certain distance somewhere, and we'll be running a certain distance somewhere else, and we'll be comparing in a nap. So we are actually a community. And that's why I'm saying, I tell people that it actually running creates a community that is even closer than a brother or a friend, because we relate on a day-to-day. So, and it also helps to relieve stress. So those are among the reasons why we run. Recreational running worldwide, it is actually very, very big. In fact, we have millions of recreational runners, and we need to harness that back home, and we are going to talk about that. Some of the biggest races in the world are the World Marathon Majors. That is London, New York, Berlin, Boston, Chicago, and Tokyo. They are actually heavily oversubscribed. To get into these races, you actually get into a ballot. They do a random selection, and you could actually miss a slot 10 straight years in a row. And that is how much in demand these races are in. London Marathon, for example, this year had 373,000, you can see the numbers, 373,736 applicants from the UK, and an additional 84,125 from abroad. And yet the race has only 42,000 slots thereabouts. So you can imagine what happens. And we're also going to see about other opportunities that are there. Recreational running in Kenya has over time also improved, because we actually want to bring all these factors, all these good things back home. One of the oldest clubs in the country, Urban Swarras, has been around for a very long time, and they've done a tremendously good job. And over time, because of the need to actually have running communities around us, a number of clubs have emerged, and we have them: RunFit, PSC, Team Jasho. We have clubs in Kilifi. We have clubs in Mount Kenya, etc. So we have some photos of some club runs. We normally meet. What we do is that everyone runs where it's convenient for them during the week, and then maybe on weekends we meet and we run together as a group, so that you are running where it's convenient, and then you are able to actually meet the bigger community when you are, when you have a bit of time. So, what is the vision of the country moving forward in terms of running? The growth of running clubs, like we have said, we have a number of clubs that are there, and these clubs helps in structured organization of runs. We also have training grounds for races, and we have people organizing for races around the country with medals. It always helps to have a bling at the end of a run. And it is hoped that over time, the recreational runners can be able to organize a marathon, actually, like is the case worldwide, where recreational clubs are very much instrumental in the organization of runs. The good thing that is happening lately was to take an example of the Standard Chartered Marathon, and we'll talk a bit more about the local marathons. This year, they have actually taken time to actually incorporate running clubs in their planning of their races, because we had several grievances that we used to put across, and sometimes they would not be taken into consideration. But this year, they did very well, and we were involved in the planning, and they took our comments. There is still rooms to improve, but at least we have a listening ear, which is where it starts for us to be able to improve. What are the opportunities available in recreational running? I think there is no bigger advantage that we can mention than the one that our biggest wealth is our health. You know, regardless of how much money you have, if you're not healthy, then it doesn't matter. So that is the one key thing about recreational running. We also can, I think, you know, and we are going to watch that video after this, unity. Sports bring a lot of unity within people. I think we saw the entire world coming together, and actually people, even people who had no interest in sports, you know, cheering Eliud throughout the world, and they did it very well, such that everyone in the world from whatever corner knew when the race was happening, and we all became one thing. When we watch our runners run, especially when our good neighbors next door in Ethiopia are trying to take the meat out of our mouths towards the finish line, we are actually all, you know, like driven to make sure that, you know, to support and encourage our runners, even if it's from our sitting rooms, to actually be able to take the prize. So it is one thing that we cannot, is actually very key, the unity. There's a lot of economic benefits to running. When we go to a country and, you know, for running, and this is what we are hoping to get here, we actually bring in a lot of money to the economy. Just next door to us in South Africa, they've got some races like Comrades and Two Oceans. You know, Comrades is a 90-kilometer run. Two Oceans is 56 kilometers. When those races happen, and we have many people from Kenya who go there, I think Comrades next year will have maybe over 20, the 90-kilometer run. You go and book hotels, okay? Then when you go to that country, you're not just going to go and run and come back. As recreational runners, elites sometimes go and run and leave, collect their money and leave, and obviously, you know, obviously represent the country and put our country on the map. But people will go sightseeing, you know, so that you know, our parks would get business, hotels would get business when people eat. We buy merchandise, you know, you're going to buy kits, etc. So all these can actually be harnessed locally as well. Cohesion we have talked about, and even marketing the country. You'll see some photos later on where when we go outside, we actually wear Kenyan outfit, brand, you know, with the Kenyan colors. All recreational runners actually, like I've said, spend money to run. So we buy the kits ourselves. And when we are out there, we actually accosted by people all over. Like when you go to the expos to collect our bibs, all over to actually take photos with us because they know that Kenya is a running nation. So we can actually harness and take advantage of that and market the country. I think it would be tragic for us not to ride on this euphoria of INEOS 159 to market the country. And we keep challenging the people for Brand Kenya, etc., to not let such opportunities pass. And I hope they are listening. So we have a photo of us. This is a run in Chicago. And the day before the Chicago Marathon, they normally have a 5-kilometer run. They call it cultural run. So you can see people representing Kenya with shukas, with a flag. These are recreational runners selling Kenya, you know, out there. And you see others in the next photo. Recreational running also plays a very key role in charity. All these races that we attend to actually are pegged to some kind of charity. For example, Standard Chartered Marathon has actually been has had an initiative over the past, although they have changed the theme, improved on that theme. They had a Seeing is Believing initiative that has raised millions of shillings towards helping people, you know, with eye complications. In fact, one time I was talking to people complaining that we have the roads blocked, closed over on a Sunday, and I was explaining to them, you know, it's not just about us and our good health and our time and feeling good. When your parents or your friends go to Kikuyu Eye Hospital, for example, and they get very subsidized rates for eye treatment, this is us who are raising this money. And as soon as at the moment that we are able to actually recognize this, make people understand, then they'll start appreciating that these races are actually very necessary. There's a photo of 2019, a number of people, 2019 Standard Chartered Marathon. And then we can look at now the lessons from that we can draw from other countries that we could bring back here. In the line of charity again, London Marathon this year surpassed £1 billion since it started. So you can imagine £1 billion collected in charity from running. Imagine what difference that would make both to charities and to the economy, because this would also come with an economic impact because of the money spent. New York Marathon had 10,000 slots this year for charity. And what they do, if you've got 50,000 entrants, then we'll have 10,000 slots that will go to charity. For example, if I was to use examples, say, for example, Standard Chartered would give, say, 2,000 slots to various charities in the country, then those charities would be able to sell those slots at a bit of a premium, and that is how they would raise their own money. So they would be marketing and telling people, look, when you run with our charity, you pay a bit more, but you're actually supporting our cause. And I'm sure many people would buy into that. Obviously, we have some challenges. I think one of the greatest challenges around us in a number of aspects is representation and support from relevant authorities. The recreational runners have been trying to register a recreational running association because although we have clubs, we would want to speak with one voice, because there's obviously a bigger impact in speaking with one voice as opposed to having a few clubs trying to articulate issues. That we are still pursuing. I think there's a bit of misunderstanding as to why the club is being formed. And some people may imagine that it may compete with AK. We are not actually going have no intention of that. We actually want representation. We also have poorly organized races, and I think this is something that we as recreational runners are trying to see how we can assist, especially when the organizers are willing to listen. And I've said that Standard Chartered has done very well this year. Part of the reasons why we have poorly organized races obviously is from funding. I think it would be important for corporates to actually be able to step in and assist where they can, to help these races come up to speed. Safety concerns on the roads due to security. It is every now and then we have the internet guys with holes all over the place and no markings. We also have open manholes. Sometimes and this can be very dangerous, for runners. And like I've said, we run at 3 a.m. because we have to go to work. And lighting as well. Dangerous drivers. We've had a number of runners knocked on the road. Public support and awareness. I think, like I've said, there's the public is not aware of why we run. And again, they are not aware that they need to run themselves and the benefits. And especially today when we have a lot of, we go to work in cars, matatus, we take lifts, etc. They are not aware at a personal level that they need to actually go out there and do something for themselves. Lack of training grounds. I think this is a big challenge. I can imagine, people from Buruburu, for example, just to mention, or areas where you do not have pads, and then we don't have parks. I think all our parks are gone. I think one in most of the countries that have taken recreational running, to a very high level, they actually have parks, and we see them when we travel. If you want to run in a big city, you will actually find a park. But you see, people cannot move 40 kilometers to come and run in Karura, which is like one of the only available parks. So that is something that is a very, very big challenge. And then we have for the reasons of having no running areas, you find that most of the clubs sort of are centered around sort of affluent areas. Affluent in the sense that their roads are wide, they have places to run. So that is some challenge that can be taken, and probably maybe eventually in the long run, when there's construction of roads, we could incorporate an aspect of making sure that we have sidewalks for like they have started doing on some roads for cyclists, that we could have some for runners as well. Awareness, prioritization of our health, I say that, sedentary lifestyle. You know, we need to be aware that we are hardly doing much physical work because we drive and we take lifts. So it's very important, and this is leading to actually a lot of diseases. Then I think one other challenge that is there is that when the elites are done with their running, they fade away. And I think it would be nice if they actually try and grow with us, if they are listening, to actually help grow running, both from an elite front, maybe with the young guys coming up, aware of recreational running, which is what we are trying to do. Because I know sometimes we go to some of these places to run. Every now and then we organize for a trip to E10. And lately we've been running in Ngong. And sometimes, initially when we used to go like, for example, to Ngong, these guys would look at us strangely and are wondering, what are these guys who are a bit too big to be running, you know? Well, so they need to know that there is recreational running. They can do a lot to support that. I think one person who has done very, very well in this is Douglas Wakihuri. I think he needs a round of applause. He's actually been very, very involved in recreational running and training guys, sharing his experiences. And it's always good to be able to sit around these guys and be able to listen to how they train and their challenges. So in conclusion, I think we can look at a number of factors. And I'll start with the fact that we say Kenya is a country of champions, which is true. But from recreational running, we are actually not doing too well. If you look at our neighbors in Tanzania, and I got some statistics from Standard Chartered in terms of the foreigners coming in to run in Kenya versus the foreigners versus us going out. One of the most popular races around us is Kilimanjaro Marathon. It happens in the first Sunday of March, and is I think on this next year is going to be on 1st of March. We have or maybe 1,000 or around 1,000 Kenyan runners going there, if not more. You know, if you go to Namanga border crossing, you find buses, etc., all parked going there. But we are not importing their runners here in those huge numbers. So even though we call ourselves a running nation, we actually have a lot to do to improve, to make sure that we bring in those runners to come and run here for the sake of growing, running in Kenya and sharing diverse cultures with other people, and also making money. Like the 2019 Standard Chartered Marathon, we had 300 internationals, mostly from Uganda. You know, there's a team called Team Matoke. The numbers keep growing and growing and growing. Yeah, which is a good thing, but we can do better. We can grow the race to a level where it is actually the prime race in this side of the country, in this side of the continent, in terms of running, but we haven't done that. Last weekend, there was the Great Run in Ethiopia. It is full of people from all over the world. I happened to have been there on a different mission, and when I was doing my regular jog, I met with people from all over the world, you know, and they were all saying, we are here for that run. So we need to get to that point. Also, like I've said that, you know, support from government. I think there's been a change this year. We had government, I'm told that the government, I think the Ministry of Sports did send a number of representatives to actually run, which is a good start. The CS and the PS were there. It doesn't always happen. I hope we can grow that. The numbers have been dwindling though, you know, reducing over time. We had one of the highest numbers in Standard Chartered Marathon in 2015, 21,200. 2017 we had 15,000, 2018 18,000, and this year 17,215. So there are a number of initiatives to try and grow the numbers up again. One of them is the involvement of the recreational runners. They also introduced a spectator stage so that they can create euphoria around the running. These spectators will eventually become the runners at some point, but most importantly, they actually encourage the runners to keep running. So that is a good thing. They introduced a relay, which was the first time that they did it. So they're actually trying to, they're actually doing their bit. They're trying to do something in terms of improvement. It would get better if we would have additional initiatives. For example, an initiative where if I went to renew my insurance, my running would come in handy in reducing my payment premiums. And I'm told there are apps like that where, like in South Africa, where they can actually monitor your physical activity related that is deliberate, not the one that you're chased by something or someone, and using that to actually reduce your principles. I think also the corporates should also be able to realize the benefits of a healthy working population, or healthy staff members. That way, they can be able to put in either encouraging, incentives that help the guys to run. I'm told one of the reasons why the numbers have consistently reduced is because of withdrawal of corporates to sponsor their working force. So obviously the corporates should be, can come in and can do their part in ensuring that they support that. But from a personal level, if my employer does not pay for my stand chart, 2,500 shillings, I can find 2,500 shillings. So it all stems from the interest and the awareness and the self-drive. So that is very important. So we actually need to position Kenya as a running nation. We want to grow running to a level where every estate can have a running group. In some countries, we have what they call park runs. Obviously, we don't have parks, but park runs where they do 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers. From that, you grow the distance. And there's always a hype around running with a group. So as recreational runners, we are hoping that we can be able to encourage as many running groups, teams, clubs, from where it's convenient for us to run, so that we can then increase those numbers. And by doing that, we will also be able to improve our running, our races. We'll be able to tap talent early. We'll be able to promote good health. And also, we shall be able to support charities, because I say that beyond the satisfaction you get in crossing, when you cross a finish line, there is bigger joy if that particular achievement also blesses someone. And that is what we aspire to do as recreational runners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David Thuo, for that very, very, very exciting, engaging, informative talk on recreational running. And in our midst, like I said, you never know who's going to turn up at KISFF. We are joined by yet another Kenyan athletic legend, Mr. Wilfred Bungei.
To our chairman, Mr. Karim, I would like to say it's a big honor again to be here after the inauguration last year. I'm really privileged to be here, and especially when I walk in, David was talking about something very important that, some of us have always it is those things that we have always think about, that what can we do so that we can make our nation a running nation. And I think incorporating this, Mr. Chairman, was very important that you were able to bring in everybody. I wish that we are going to have a full house, and we hope that in the coming days, I'm aware that so many people are watching on Facebook Live and everything that is going on. And I think, for me, I'm looking forward to sharing and be able to talk about what we are doing at the moment and what can we be able to do so that we can become a real true running nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, David. I thought that was an excellent presentation. Very, very thoroughly researched, and I think it was good information for all of us.
Yeah.
I have a question and a comment.
Yes.
The question is, when you said over 350,000 people apply for marathons internationally,
Yes.
and only about 40 or 45,000 get a chance to get in.
Yes.
Obviously, there must be a fee to pay for applying.
Yes.
Do you get a refund if you are not, for those who don't make it? And how much is the fee? That's the question. The comment is, in 2016, we had the Prime Minister for India, Mr. Modi, His Excellency Modi, who came to Kenya and to visit, pay a state visit, met His Excellency the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, and they signed about 12 communiques. And one of the communiques they signed was sports, where it said, because India is a very powerful cricketing nation, and Kenya is a very powerful athletic nation. So how are the two countries going to meet? And one of the areas was that Kenyans will go to India and help develop the Indian athletic movement. And India was going to send cricketers to Kenya to develop our cricket. I'm not sure where we've reached. The last I found out that they've just signed the communique, and that's where the document is. We've moved nowhere. So I don't know unless anybody else has any information on that, but I think those type of partnerships need to be enhanced further. These are great opportunities. When you have the two heads of state agreeing on things, I think it's the people at the grassroots, they must develop. The people in charge must develop this and do justice to our next generation, because that's where we need to put our focus on. Thank you.
Okay, to answer the question on when you do the application and you don't get it, you don't get a chance, what happens, they actually take, two things can happen. They actually take your credit card details, and then you are only charged when you are confirmed. Or they could take hold the money, and if you are not, you don't get the opportunity, it goes back to the card. And it's very straightforward. It's never been a problem. Yeah. And what they do, like for example, the last race was the New York Marathon. The ballot for next year will start in a few weeks. Berlin happened, we ran on the 29th, and within 3 or 4 weeks, the ballot for next year had started. So that is what happens. Yeah. What's the fee? It ranges between $150, $200. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And Wilfred, you have a question? Okay, because you're going to make the presentation.
Mine will be very quick. I think I had said earlier that for me, David, I don't know what you can be able to do so that we can make more Kenyans, being able to register for these. Because when I was active in athletics, I used to think that, a place like Nairobi, we should be able to have Nyayo Stadium or Kasarani being open for non-professional athletes to be able to run. Because as you rightly said, that, a healthy nation, is wealth. And another question that is very important on my part is that how can you be able to push, let's say, corporates to be able to encourage their employees? Yesterday, I had an opportunity to be with the DG, KWS, and he said that he wants to make every staff to be able to run for the better productivity. So how can you be able to help and sensitize more Kenyans so that we do not actually put a lot of money in terms of the Ministry of Health, for example, because you are dealing with curative instead of preventive. And I think, many times last year we were told that the Ministry of Sport, is a lean ministry, meaning they get less funding. But otherwise, if the ministries in this country can be able to invest more on the sport, and then I believe that we can be able to have much better health nation. Thank you.
Yeah. I think from on the question of how we can help guys get into running, that what I said about the estates, etc., can work. With the corporates, I think we can get to a point where the government has initiatives for people who actually do promote some of these or support, initiatives like fitness, etc. I think that would go a long way. Anyone else with comments regarding that? Yeah.
My comment would actually be different people like different things, but physical activity is core to health.
Yeah.
So how do we need to think about how we bring in running and other physical activities to the level of having more people participate, not necessarily for competition, but we know what the end goal is. So is it charity, is it health? And that way, when we encourage people and give them options in terms of infrastructure and where to participate, including running with your children in the house and then making that visible. Yes.
Okay. And I think one thing I can also add is that even for the races that are around, we don't need to wait until the day of the race. We see a few days to Standard Chartered Marathon, the whole of Nairobi is running. I think the elites will tell us that towards the race they reduce their mileage. But those who are not in the know will actually be running a lot towards the race. But we should actually have initiatives that actually spread it out throughout the year. So there would be maybe a way of figuring out how are you training for your next Standard Chartered, for example. How are you training for your next Deto Heart Run? How are you like that? So that people are continuously aware and it is in their face almost all the time, as opposed to now hyping it a few days, a few weeks to the race. Yeah.
That the government, through the president's key 4 agendas, has highlighted the importance of universal health care. And like you said, a healthy nation is a wealthy nation, a more prosperous and progressive nation. So if we take sports very seriously through the various ministries, even through the Ministry of Sports, then we'll be able to find that even our healthcare costs will be minimized, because that money then can be redirected into other ministries and other initiatives. And then also in terms of industrialization and manufacture, that's where film comes through, because film is it's a result of a process that involves very many stages. So that's why, like Kenya International Sports Film Festival, it's about sports and film. It's about creating that kind of awareness, and that is very key to the president's 4 agendas.